Well, hello everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of CrossWorlds. This is a show where we look at what might be called the greater metaverse, the metaverse beyond worlds like Second Life, where we're filming this, to spaces that exist on the internet, sometimes on the web, sometimes even on your desktop. Throughout this series, we've had a very strong focus on the hypergrid, which is a system for connecting open simulator worlds. And today's guest is actually the Chief Technical Officer of one of the open simulators that is involved in both hosting grids and hosting regions, and also has a web presence in the form of something called Jibe, which we'll be talking about, and are partly behind an event happening next week too called IndieMetaverse. So we're going to be covering all this and more. So I'd like to introduce my guest, and I'm actually going to start by, her name is Chris Hart, anyway, and in world she's known, we call her Strawberry Girl, but it's Strawberry Freed. So, hi, Chris.
Hello, Mal. Thank you very much for having me on tonight.
Great. Now, the way I always do for the start of this show, just to put us in perspective, so to speak, is I sort of just throw it over to you to give a little bit of history, who you are, where you've come from, so to speak, and exactly what you're doing. And then we'll just be chattering really about the whole open metaverse, the hypergrid, and where we think things are going, etc. But if you just give a bit of history to put us in perspective.
Sure. So basically, my background is in development. I'm a Microsoft platform developer. I've done a lot of web applications and SharePoint development in my past. I've also used to edit books on programming for a company called Rocks Press, who were formerly based in Birmingham in the UK, but after a minor financial hiccup, Rocks closed, and I moved into the development industry. So I've spent several years doing consulting and web development, and finally ended up in Second Life at a developer meeting on Microsoft Island, and that was where I met Kyle and Robin, who I have been working with almost since then. Really, we got together in 3D, and we came up with a great bunch of ideas for how 3D could be used better, and so basically the company came from there, and Reaction Grid was born, and we have been hosting Open Simulator for 2 years, possibly more. It's probably longer than that. It feels like forever.
Yeah, I think it is. I think I've been there for 2. So
yeah, it's been a good long while, and we launched our platform called Jibe at the beginning of this year officially. It is a web-based alternative to the Open Simulator environment, built using Unity 3D, and you can embed it in a web page. You can run it as a standalone application, or you can even run it on a mobile device. So we've got Jibe working on Android mobile phones and tablets at the present time. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, brief history of where we are and where I came from.
Chris, I found it quite interesting then that you just said that the three of you met at Microsoft Island. During the course of this series, we've been looking quite a lot at different open sims and whatever. But of course, they do, I think the right expression is they do work on different back ends, don't they? And I think yours uses Microsoft Net and things. In what ways does your backend differ, if any, from the other grids?
Yeah, there is the great thing about Open Simulator as a platform is that it is an open source platform, and it's built in a language called C#. And the great thing about that is that there is this super platform called Mono, which means that you can run C# applications on Linux, or you can run it on a Mac, or you can run them natively on Windows. So people have a choice as to what they want to host Open Simulator using. So we've chosen the Microsoft platform because my background is all on the Microsoft stack. I am happiest working on that particular platform. Other people choose the Linux platform for their hosting, and it's entirely up to them. The Open Simulator platform is incredibly flexible in how you run it, and it has a series of modules that you can turn on or turn off, and you can switch between different configurations. So that's a really good strong point for that platform. And we've chosen an environment that we are happiest working with, and that we believe offers a very good level of performance and stability for OpenSim. Bearing in mind it's still an alpha platform, it's we try and pick and choose the components that we feel will work best and most strongly. So that's kind of where we've gone with hosting OpenSim. Hopefully that answers.
One of the things that has actually come up on quite a few occasions, of course, is because the core OpenSim code. We had Justin here, in fact, at the beginning of the series, is fairly fixed. Many developers like you, maybe Spot on 3D and Worlds, various other people, do actually adjust that core code to their own requirements. So that, you have strings coming off it, don't you?
We've made a few changes. The changes we make are fairly minor, to be honest. We try to stay as close as possible to the core of OpenSim. It makes it more predictable for us in terms of understanding how the platform is shifting and moving over time. What we've done is supplement the. We've made some changes, but not too many. We haven't forked the code base so much. What we've mostly done is concentrated on our administration side and our web side of things, where we have a management system for the registration of user accounts, for the administration of the regions running on the grid, and basically it's a lot of web services talking to the database, also talking to Open Simulator directly. There's a series of remote administration functions that OpenSim has that we can hook into, and then we can also talk directly to OpenSim code because we're using the Microsoft stack. We can just call straight through from some of our applications straight through to OpenSim. So it's fairly integrated, but at the same time we don't stray too far from the main path because it does make it harder in future then to upgrade. It's been hard enough upgrading between versions of OpenSim as it is, because the core platform keeps shifting. This is the problem with the alpha nature of that product, is that there is no fixed roadmap for the product. There is no fixed feature set for the product. It will keep changing. There will be breaking changes, and anyone running OpenSim has to accept that that is the way it's going to work, and you have to compensate for that and adjust for that and expect it. You have to understand that they've just changed how profiles are stored completely, and that profiles are not part of OpenSim now. If you want to use profiles, it's an external module, and that takes some getting used to, and it's not for everyone to take on a task as big as OpenSim, and even for those of us who've been doing it for years, it's a challenge. So.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious example of this is media on a prim and things like that, which I know. Are those actually present in Reaction Grid now?
The main Reaction Grid at the moment is still on an older version of OpenSim. We are upgrading our clients mostly to 0.7.2. Before we are, because of the sheer scale involved in migrating a grid of the size of Reaction Grid. The customers we have on main Reaction Grid, for the most part, have very few requirements for migrating to the newer version, whereas there's those who have private grids with us have more of more of a requirement for the cutting edge technology. We find that the customers who come to us for hosting are the ones who have more specific needs and requirements. So some of them have requested that they need to be upgraded for mesh support. Some of them have been requested to upgrade for media on a prim support. A lot of the kids who come into our main reaction grid, all those students, they just want to come in and build, and they want to do simple scripting. And while we're hoping that concurrency will be better on 7.2, there aren't many other real strong driving factors to push the big grid as early as some of these other grids. So we're going to follow up. We're going to be getting our grid upgraded in the next couple of weeks. And that will be great for things like hypergrid support, where people will be able to go from one grid to another.
Of course. Yeah.
So there's so many reasons as to why you upgrade and driving motivators. But one of the teachers said to me, "Why would what's in it for me? Why should I care about this upgrade?" And for her kids, it makes no difference. So
something actually that I think we should tell people that you do that some of our guests don't actually is that Reaction Grid does have a public grid that anybody can go to. Lots of educators there. It's less of a community thing than, for example, Second Life. But also under the auspices of Reaction Grid, there are other grids like Joycadia. And by the way, am I right? Is Sexton Shepherd that is some kind of role play grid that I believe you're going to be hosting for him?
Yes, I will not. I do not believe that is publicly. That's something I can talk about in public at the moment. There is a very large grid, and they are doing incredible work. And I would love to tell you guys what they're up to. At the moment, I'm not sure if I'm able to tell you exactly what they're doing. It's really cool. You're going to love it. It's beautiful.
The reason I asked is they sent us some video that I ran on the show on Sunday, so we were looking at the video. And of course he's a legendary creator in Second Life, the Underwater City and everything he did. So that's certainly going to be
the builds on that grid I have never seen their equal. It is absolutely stunning, and I am very much looking forward to that coming out. It's been built for months now. We have been working with those guys for months, so we're very excited to see what's going to be going on there. They've been some of these larger builds are really pushing the platform, and this is where Open Simulator starts to creak a little bit, because a lot of these beautiful, intricate, accurate builds get into the 30, 40, 50,000 primitives area, and that's a real challenge for an alpha product. So we're working a lot with those guys to give them the best chance of success, and we're learning a lot from the process. And this is why we've also got our platform Jibe, which is for different kind of immersive environments where you can build true mesh objects that would be would actually probably do the job with a less overhead in terms of rendering and things like that. And if you were an architect and if you wanted to build, if you've already got plans for a house in 3D, you could just bring it straight into the Jibe platform and share that with people without having to render 50,000 different individual primitive shapes that are contortioned and twisted to the design. So.
Well, one of the beauties of OpenSim and indeed other things is that I think we're seeing a move, even among Second Life creators, believe it or not, to kind of authoring outside the world and then having a finite product that you own, and can import separately into a given world. We had Bruce Joy here earlier in the series talking about FastPark's open avatar project, where one of the components of that, it would travel around the web and with you, but one of the components of that, for example, would be a mesh. And although it would be portable on an open platform, you could still bring it into somewhere like Second Life or InWorlds, which are closed gardens, as an import. So at least you could still have that avatar identity come into the other platform, even though it wouldn't be truly mobile because it would be an import job. But one of the passions that's really come out in this series, actually, as we've been talking to various guests, of course, is hypergrid itself, the notion that all these grids can exist and we will have a method of literally jumping between them. And we can start viewing the sum totality of the metaverse, as it were, as well, maybe equal to the population of Second Life, which is strictly, as we said, walled garden, but it's also a public-facing platform. It's the kind of the high street of the metaverse, but it is very little other than the high street
Yes.
these days in many ways. The back offices and the sort of research labs do tend to want to be in slightly different places other than Second Life. Now, I'm thinking, you mentioned Jibe. I'd like to move on to that a little bit. We've had a lot of discussion, again, in previous shows, on the nature of bringing the metaverse to the web, as it were. There are some people who are to make some kind of lightweight version of the OpenSim Second Life style client that is embeddable on the web and can show you an actual simulator as it exists on what we think of as a metaverse grid. There are others that, again, I believe are using Unity 3D to try and create an interface that will still interface with simulators that exist out there on grids like Reaction Grid or whatever. And then there is, I think it's fair to say, Jibe, which again is the same idea, using Unity 3D to build the platform. But the worlds you're building in Jibe, as I understand it, do not in any way connect to any kind of grid. I think there's some interoperability, isn't there? But it doesn't connect to an actual grid in the way that the OpenSim.
We're going along a different line with Jibe. Having hosted Open Simulator for so long, we are very aware of its strengths and weaknesses, and the strengths of something like the Unity engine for building game environments. It's almost unparalleled. It's fantastic. It brings the power of a professional game creation studio to the hands of the hobbyist and indie developer. It really does bring that entry bar down. We went into Unity 3D because it had so many benefits in terms of what platform you could publish to, the requirements for technically achieving what we wanted to, and we built our own multiplayer kit that we call Jibe, that basically is a project kit for Unity 3D that makes your 3D scenes into a multiplayer virtual environment. So it doesn't actually directly hook up to our Open Simulator world at all. And we decided to do this because really the requirements that we had from our clients were very distinct. We had clients who wanted to have collaborative, live, in-world building. They wanted kids on the ground building boxes, spheres, making planets and doing cool stuff in OpenSim. But a lot of our other clients wanted to have collaborative meeting spaces, to share designs that they had been working on. We have university students who've been doing lots of models that they wanted to bring in and share. So Jibe was really born from the other side of the equation, where OpenSim was just not really targeted for that. You don't want, if you wanted to have an event with hundreds of users in it, OpenSim is going to be a headache, whereas Jibe is going to be much more manageable. So for higher concurrency, for the pre-built environments where you're not doing live building, Jibe is fantastic for that. So we decided not to go with OpenSim because of things like the fact that OpenSim is it's a great product, but I don't think it's necessarily the way to achieve those kinds of results. So what we're also doing now, Jibe has the option to, we have these Jibeways. The Jibeway is a fun little name, I love it. You can basically go through a portal and appear in somebody else's world.
That's just what I was going to ask.
That's it. Yeah, so it's the start of that hypergrid idea. But it kind of goes beyond that. It's an idea at the moment. It's a concept, and you can go and visit other people's worlds, and that's great. Where we're going to go with that is to make it more interesting. So you can, you can take your avatar with you. If you're a Jibe world to Jibe world, you could take your avatar with you. That would be, that's absolutely our goal for our platform. We want that to be a possibility and have that option of having some level of appearance transfer with you. We've also been working with the IEEE working group who are working on some of the standards for messaging between virtual spaces and having common ways to talk from Second Life to OpenSim to Jibe. And we're working with them to play a game of Pong between virtual worlds.
We actually saw that on a show a few weeks ago.
Fabulous.
Oh, it's great stuff. Yeah.
So that's something that we are very keen to promote, because there are lots of different platforms out there, and you can't hypergrid to Second Life. Despite the early tests that were done long time ago, 3 years ago, probably by now, in transferring from a Second Life grid to an OpenSim grid, that hasn't gone anywhere, and it's a real shame because that could have been a really interesting direction for interoperability between Second Life and OpenSim. But since that really doesn't look like it's going to be possible in its original form, it's time to be clever and look at alternative ways. I think the introduction of things like Mesh on Second Life and now OpenSim means that it's going to be easier to transfer from different platforms. So I think that's going to be a pretty interesting direction for the next 12 months.
Yeah, I certainly think where OpenSim's concerned, I mean, if with the hypergrid, if you think of the aggregate number of users and the grids that are opening up, there is going to come a time where, it's like, do you remember those old snooker games in the UK where they used to have England versus the rest of the world? It's going to be a bit like Second Life versus the rest of the metaverse. There's going to come a point where the rest of the metaverse, viewed as a whole, is as big as Second Life, and they are hopefully at that point going to allow teleports in or teleports out or something, if not the whole thing. They'll sort of wake up to the fact that they ought to plug into a greater network, as it were.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. I think the direction that Second Life is going in is interesting. I think the introduction of people like Rodvik and some of his former Sims friends make it an interesting environment. The old idea that Second Life was, is it now going to turn into The Sims, but with real people behind those avatars? Are they going to have more of these NPCs that they're talking about bringing in? And which direction is Second Life going to go in? So I find that interesting too.
Today, in fact, December 1st, Linden's have officially launched, it's a sort of sub-domain of Second Life called Linden Realms, and it's all gaming.
Yes.
It's been beated already for premium customers, but it's now open to all from today. And it makes you wonder, because, one of the things I've always thought that made Second Life and all our more recent projects unique was the fact they are networking environments, collaborative environments where you have all this visual richness available. But, the graphics don't really compete with the high-end games. So I'm surprised in a way that I know Rodvik comes from a game background, but I'm a bit surprised about this focus on gaming. It seems a bit off-center, as it were, but who knows?
Yeah, I think it's interesting for Second Life that has got such a huge community behind it that the momentum that they're going to be bringing into that project. I haven't yet seen a major shift in direction from the labs yet. But, if you talk about the games and the graphical richness, I was playing Battlefield 3 the other day, and it's gloriously pretty. It's so pretty, you get shot within 5 minutes because you're too busy looking at the pretty sun in the sky. It's one of those graphically rich games that makes you think, wow, this is going in a really interesting direction. And I think that's one of the really cool things about the Unity platform, is that I know that Unity has that potential to go in that direction, and that's going to bring Jibe into some really nice areas, and that's why I really love the Jibe platform, because I get to play with that sort of thing. I can't play with the viewer code for Second Life and OpenSim because it's just not my cup of tea. So.
I remember the days of CD-ROMs, and I don't know about the graphics, but anything that requires shooting had me out within 15 seconds. Never got past the first frame. So, but I do like some of the graphics I see on these things, even though I can't shoot my way into them fast enough. I'd like to go back now to Jibe, actually, because not Jibe specifically, but just your thoughts. Share your thoughts about mobile's relationship to the metaverse. Now, by the metaverse, I obviously mean the open sims, maybe including Second Life, and maybe including worlds that are on the web. Anything that is really immersive spaces. How they will all connect and everything is very different. But I had one guest very recently who was sort of, we were talking before the show about sort of how's mobile hijacked immersion. On the basis, a few years ago, we were all very keen promoting virtual worlds, and somehow, the meetings that were meant to save on plane travel and commuting never really happened. People are still commuting and traveling on planes. They're just, the technology has gone mobile with them instead of slowing them down. I wonder how long that will last, because a lot of this mobile technology is just fast and furious, and it is distracting rather than empowering in the way that immersion is. But I just, Jibe, of course, you have already produced on Android. I made a mistake of thinking it was already on the iPad too, and I found a program with the same name, as we found out the other day. But it's going to be on the iPad, I gather. And I'm just keen to hear your thoughts, really, on how you think mobile, especially with the pad devices, which do have a halfway decent screen size, will sort of integrate with, the way we act with immersive spaces too.
Yeah, I think the power of the mobile devices that we have at the moment, it is scary powerful mobile devices we have these days. I'm holding a phone in my hand that has more computing power than one of my computers in the house. They are powerful devices. We carry them around with us every day. The challenges we have are making 3D spaces, which is really what we're talking about when it comes to immersive environments, is making 3D spaces that don't drain the battery within 5 minutes, and that are compelling and interesting and have a really viable use case for people who want to come in and use them. You want to use this application. You really want to use this application. It's got to be something that is going to be better than the existing alternatives. Why would I want to use this immersive space over just a bit of text chat? So the ballpark is shifting. When you're on a desktop machine like this, I can go into Second Life and I get the visually rich environment, and I also get text chat. I could just talk to someone via, Skype chat. Sometimes it's nicer to do a face-to-face via the virtual environment. Now, when you go to the mobile device, do I want to do that? Do I get the same level of immersion from a 3D space? That pushes the emphasis back on the developer, the person who is making that immersive space, to really come up with a compelling reason to use that space for whatever it is they have in mind. I think a lot of the success of applications on the mobile devices at the moment is on the ones that are entertaining, the ones that are fun, the ones that have some level of feedback and reward to them. And what we're trying to do with Jibe is to provide a platform that has all the basics of a multiplayer immersive environment, but that would also be something that people will enjoy using and that will come back and use. And it's a challenge for anyone who's going into the mobile spaces to come up with the most compelling reason to use that product on that platform. I have it on my phone. Why do I want to use it? Well, if I'm out, I want to do something, and I suddenly think, oh, I've got a support ticket in. Someone can't get to their server. Well, I have an application on my phone. I can log into our virtual server room. I can go and check the servers. I can see visually on screen that my servers are in trouble because I have the 3D version of our server room on my mobile phone, which is fantastic. So this is something that is an example of how we have used this successfully, and how we are trying to the data visualization, I think, is one of the most powerful ways of using 3D, because when you have that extra level of sense of depth to something, you get a really good cue as to why it's important. I really enjoy playing with data visualization in 3D, and having it on my phone makes it fantastic. I love checking on the servers whilst I'm out, because not only is it really useful, but it's also fun. I can show it to people and say, look, hey, my server's on fire. I just set fire to my server. And I know that I did that because I was playing around with physics on OpenSim, something like that. So I can do work on it because I can see at a glance if a customer needs some assistance, but I can also use it because I really enjoy using it. I really enjoy being in that server room. That one environment that we made has really just changed how our company works. We can access it from our mobile devices or from the web, and it's been a real success for us. So what we're doing is working with our clients who have got the Jibe platform, and trying to chat with them about how they see their worlds moving into the mobile space and how they would like to use that with their application. So.
Jibe, you'll have to correct me here because I haven't actually been able to examine Jibe on the mobile. But is there a kind of like Reaction Grid? Is there like a public version of Jibe where people will be able to access a working space on the mobile as well as the individual instances that you're doing for clients?
The mobile spaces, we have one mobile space currently available on the Android market. And if you search for Jibe on the Android market, you'll find us. The space that you end up on there, you can access via the web as well. At the moment, I don't believe I have a public link to that, but I probably should publish one. Our other worlds that you can access, we have linked to from our various websites, and those you can just launch a URL in your web browser, and you can just go into the virtual space and talk to people. So they're up 24/7 on our servers, so we don't take those down. And one of the demos we have available is that server room, where we've obfuscated the data, so you don't get to see who's who, but you do get to see the flaming servers of doom. So it's great for showing people this is actually the room that we use to look after the fleet. You can't see which server's which, but Robin and I and all the rest of us will know what to do when we see that there's a server in trouble. So
you know how it works. Yeah. It's interesting. Last program we had I have Fleet Took here, and we looked at Fleet Grid, but we also went over to there's an educator here in the UK, Peter Miller. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was OS Grid he's on, but he has a sim there which demonstrates this superbly because he's created a sim which is actually a map of the hypergrid. In the sense that it's just not a flat map, it shows you a flat map, but it's also on different layers going up into the sky, and you can literally fly around this thing, and it explains far better than any amount of words can do what the hypergrid is and how it's structured.
That's fabulous.
It's also include you incidentally are in the far top right-hand corner, I think. They are working on something, aren't they? Where hopefully the coordinates are going to be closer together, so that hypergridding won't require 2 jumps.
Yes, that would be very nice. The question is, do you position your grid where OS Grid is, or do you position your grid somewhere else? And we took the decision at the start of Reaction Grid's existence that we were going to choose a lower range of coordinates. And at the time, that meant nothing, really, apart from the fact that we knew we were at different coordinates, and that was fine. Well, then Hypergrid comes along. Do you go for higher or lower? The defaults for OpenSim for a fresh installation were lower. OS Grid and a few other grids are higher. So this limitation frustrates me because it is nothing to do with how OpenSim works. It is entirely down to the Linden client that they will never want to change because they don't see the need to. Second Life isn't going to be that big. Why should they change it? But it's causing so many headaches for the rest of us. It's a pain. Yeah,
that is the supreme irony, because I've asked a lot of people about this. I mean, we're inundated with about 20 different flavors a month of Second Life viewers for the Second Life Linden client. But we have yet to see somebody strip out all the Linden stuff and make what I call the Metaverse client. In other words, take out everything that isn't universally common and then build a modular system where you can plug stuff in for maybe the vagaries of different platforms.
Yeah, I agree with that. The best I have seen for people doing that so far have been some of the people who have made Unity front ends for Second Life and OpenSim. Those guys have done more for the client end than anyone has really for editing some of these Second Life clients. Imprudence Viewer is my preferred choice for OpenSim, but there are still many parts of that that refer to the Linden grid in passing. This is something that really only affects you if you're a Linden. And really, I don't care. I'm not a Linden. I'm running OpenSim. Why should I have to even care about this dialogue? Why should I even care about features that are no relation to my grid whatsoever? And it's a real frustration. That client it stifles OpenSim in many ways too, because OpenSim, you may have heard of things like mega regions. Mega regions are a fabulous invention of OpenSim. They are basically a mildly hacky way of combining 256 square meter regions into one bigger continent. And you can fly across the regions with no lag across the border crossings. And they had to do this. And the way they've implemented doing this is it's actually a bit of a hack. Because if you try and do some of the things that you would normally be able to do in a region, you find yourself unable to do them because it's a bit of a hack, and you can't save the auth files in the same way. You can't teleport into any of the other regions because they don't really technically exist anymore. And it's such a shame because in the core support, I remember when they were adding support for non-standard region sizes, you could add larger regions in OpenSim, but the client wouldn't support it, and it would cause all sorts of trouble with the client. So this disparity between the client and the potential of OpenSim is a real frustration, and I really wish that there was a way to break free of that restriction, and almost indeed the mindset of thinking like a Linden, where because the Linden labs have just produced something, OpenSim must therefore do it too in order to be compatible. Whereas OpenSim really has a lot of potential, and it'd be great if they could just do what they want to do and ignore the Second Life side of things, but that would upset other people. So
you can't win.
You can't win them all.
I just get fed up a big on OpenSim, and I happily hypergridding around from one grid to another, and then I want to copy the landmark, and guess what? It's a slill, which isn't, of course. It's not a slill at all because it doesn't go to Second Life anywhere. But things like that just can be so annoying. Okay, and of course, I've got a little place with my partner Tara in Reaction Grid, and I did actually successfully. I forget whether it was Kitely or whether it was Chris Collins' thing, but I've actually successfully got that sim embedded on the web. I think it was via Kitely, and I just log into a web page. I put the embed code on one of my pages on the web, and to all intents and purposes, I've logged into the Reaction Grid. I obviously haven't got the Imprudence interface or anything, but I can maneuver around, visit the art gallery, go into my home, and things like that. The only thing I can't do is go beyond the boundaries of the single sim. The way it embeds means it's confined to one sim, but he just goes and gets the address and loads it onto this webpage for me, and so I can send that webpage to anybody I want to come and admire Malburn's estate in Reaction Grid.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. Sorry. I think that was Kitely. I did that with. I can't be sure. It's either Kitely or it's Chris Collins' Tipedian.
I think that would probably be the one you're talking about. Is the one where you take the export of the region and convert it into a Unity build. Might well be that one, but I could be wrong. The innovation that keeps going on in this area is quite dramatic. There are some of the OpenSim viewers that have come out with Unity have very good results these days. So it may have been one of those. I can't say for certain.
Yeah, I'll have to double check. I should have double checked before opening my mouth, really, shouldn't I? But yes, no, I mean, I've always perceived, I'm one of these people who much prefers to be in an immersive space and to pull up the web and various widgets and things from within that space. That's my way of thinking. But I've always liked the idea also of people, attracting people who are on the web, partly with things like television that we're doing now, but also partly with the idea of an embedded window into the metaverse, as it were, so people can either watch as they do with television, or they can have a lightweight experience where you can maybe take a seat and attend an event, and then if they want to go the full whack, they can load a fully-fledged client for the world itself. But I think it's about time, before we run out of time, I'm going to divert us now, because the other exciting thing, and I know that you better tell us a bit about, is that there's an event coming up next week called IndieMetaverse, isn't there?
That's right.
Reaction Grid is sort of behind, but it goes it's our cup of tea, really. It goes way beyond Reaction Grid, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, we have been in contact with all of our clients and friends and people who aren't actually clients, but we're on very good terms with. We have got lots of people who have fantastic projects that they have done in 3D on Open Simulator, on Jibe, and on other platforms too. And we have arranged for them to do presentations next week as part of our IndieMetaverse event. This is all 100% virtual attendance. We will be streaming every session live. and we will be recording sessions. We had a super planning session today where we were testing out all the various options for streaming and recording and you name it. And all the technical logistics are all getting organised, because last year we basically organised it and hosted the event with the whole team together in the same room. This year we're actually going to be doing it remotely ourselves, so it's going to be an interesting event, but the sessions that we've got lined up are fantastic. And we have an article on our blog that links through to the calendar for all the events, and we're going to be keeping that calendar up to date with all the sessions that are going to be held, so I would highly recommend checking that out.
That's reactiongrid.blogspot.com for anybody who wishes to pursue that. So I've actually got it open now, so I know
that's the one. Yes.
Talking about, yeah. When you say, is it going to be, for example, can I attend in Second Live? Can I attend in? Obviously, I can attend in Reaction Grid. I can attend in Jibe, presumably. Mm-hmm. Are viewers going to be able to attend anywhere else?
We'll be using our live stream channel. We were testing out our live stream channel earlier, and it seems to work very well for the team. So we will be on livestream.com/Reaction Grid next week. And people can watch the stream on there, and that will be your central. Oh God, I'm so sorry.
You're in America now.
I've been living here for a year and a half now. It kind of infects you, but that will be our central stream for all the events, because people will be presenting different content from different places. Some places will not be publicly accessible, so those that are, we will put links up to, so people can come in and join in that session in that particular virtual environment. But the live stream will have the whole event. Fingers crossed, for the duration of the conference. I mean, this is going to be a super conference where people will just present ideas and things that they have been working on. So it's a little raw, it's a little beta, it's a little alpha almost in certain respects. Obviously, certainly when it comes to OpenSim, it's alpha. It's going to be a super few days of interesting content, we would hope, and we will be recording the sessions, and we will post them as soon as we have them encoded for future consumption, so people can come back and view them whenever they want.
That's great. And how long does it last again? Is it the entirety of the week, or?
It is. Let me just bring up the calendar. Let me remind myself when that session is due to start. We have certainly got sessions lined up, I think, from Wednesday through to Saturday, but I may be wrong with that one. My apologies, I should be more prepared for my own event, shouldn't I, really? I just know that I've got a lot of work going on next week, so I'm kind of working on the back-end logistics of it all to make sure that we're all braced and ready for anything that is thrown at us, because when it comes to live presentations and virtual worlds, you have to be extremely flexible. And you have to know that, sometimes things won't necessarily go right, but we're ready for it all. And next week's going to be fantastic. Yes, it starts actually on Tuesday through to Saturday. We have got events scheduled. So if you check out our calendar, we actually have reactiongrid.com/2011/events.aspx. There is a link to that from the blog, and it's got all the current schedule on there. So
great. Okay, I've got it up there now. So. Right. Okay, well, that's, hopefully we'll get some of our crew over there to report on those events too, and what have you. Right, so we're nearing the end of the program, I think. So what I'd like to do near the end here is move into the personal vision time, if that's the right expression. I'd like to really put you in the hot seat and say, what are your greatest hopes, fears, visions for the future? I mean, rather independent of what's any specifics that you might be doing, but sort of, the way what I loosely describe as the Metaverse may develop, and any vision you might have long term, if you feel up to that.
Wow. Life, the universe, and everything, the future of virtual environments.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would love to see more of the more virtual environments entering the same spaces. So things like Second Life available over the web. Wouldn't that be a great thing? You know, those guys really should be able to make that happen. That would be fantastic if they could be part of that crowd too. OpenSim, we've got some great viewers that are coming up from some of the guys who are working with Unity to develop interfaces to the Open Simulator backend, and that's looking really promising. I would like to see more going on there because I would love to see us break free of the Linden client. I would love to see Open Simulator move into a beta next year, but I so know that's not going to happen anytime soon because of the nature of the product. I love OpenSim. I do. I just sometimes alpha is a frustration. I would love to see a bit more stability going into that product, but it may not happen. And then just for Jibe and for OpenSim, for us personally, you know, as Reaction Grid speaking, we want to continue to offer the best immersive environments for our clients, whatever their requirements are. So if we have school kids who want to learn about 3D, then we'll want to offer them options for learning in 3D. I want to be able to, you know, make the most of the powerful devices that we have in our hands these days, tablets and mobile devices, and make 3D work on those devices and make it effective and interesting. I don't want it to be a barrier for people to have to say, oh, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be something really compelling. So I want to come up with more compelling use cases for people for those environments. And I'm really looking forward to putting in some of the ideas I have in my head for where Jibe is going to go, and some of the great features we're going to be introducing there. We haven't yet introduced live building into Jibe, or inventory, whichever you prefer to pronounce it.
Yeah.
For Jibe, those are on our roadmap, and that is going to happen next year. We're going to have options for creating objects live in a scene and have persistence for those objects. Make it easier for people to bring in alternative avatars, things like that. So making 3D as easy as possible for people to use is still our main mindset. We want it to be an enabling technology, not a barrier. We want it to be something that people really enjoy using, and I think that's pretty much the goal of everyone working with these immersive environments, is to keep them exciting, keep them interesting, and make them usable. So,
I have to ask as well. Obviously, the answer may not come because even if the answer is yes, it may be confidential. But are there any specific things that you might be working with other partners on to enable interoperability? I'm thinking in the sense that you have the open source open avatar project, for example. The idea that you can create an avatar, own it, and take it around with you in either a really rich format or a really stripped down format, depending on where and when you're using it. But the whole idea is the inventory, the asset servers, as it were, for all the component parts, be it the avatar itself, its behaviors, its costuming, whatever, are accessible openly across the internet. So you know, you could move into an open sim, for example, with this particular avatar. Maybe there'll be a way to hypergrid in, for example, and you will always be the same, but the asset server that's serving what you're wearing and all your features is wholly independent of the world. And I'm just wondering, especially with Jibe, which is web-based, are there any projects that we maybe shouldn't know about or should know about that you might be working on there?
Oh, there's nothing that you shouldn't know about there. To date, I still haven't actually really found an avatar that I'm extremely 100% happy with. The one I have in Second Life is great and does the job, but the fact that I can never export this woman in front of me kind of limits my appeal for her. You know, these boots I bought in the store, and they're great boots, but I didn't make them. Wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful, what's her name? Keisha, I think it is, at Wrong made them. She's fantastic, and I love her stuff. The rest of my outfit came from another store. I can't take that with me. You know, I probably would pay for this stuff if it was a combination of things that I really wanted to take with me. But the permissions just don't let me transport that, and it's not a standard. The option of primitive shapes as an exportable option I could bring into another platform. It's not like a conventional 3D standard. A standard, as I would see it, would be like an FBX export or an OBJ export or a DAE. I mean, I'm working with professional 3D packages these days because of Jibe. For something to be truly compatible, you need it to be in a professional 3D package. You need it to be something that is an industry standard. And Second Life is not an industry standard. It's a super environment for simple development, for 3D stuff that can look fantastic, but it's not a standard. I want standards to be able to transfer these things around. So where 3D has got to go towards mesh and standardization. So Second Life's embrace of mesh is a start, and I applaud that. It's difficult for content creators because they've been working with the primitives for so long, but for it to be truly interoperable between Second Life, OpenSim, Jibe, all the other collective of environments, it has to be an industry standard. And this is where our work with the IEEE is hopefully going to go into that direction too. And we don't have any direct plans with any partners to implement anything ourselves, but we have we're open to discussions about how best to approach these issues and how to move forward in a way that is mutually beneficial to the community. The community being you, me, anybody else using 3D on whichever platform.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you all the best with that. I mean, so much. I think we're in a rapidly accelerating area now. I think so much is happening that things are going to merge. They're going to join up, and we're going to. So I don't know how long it will be before we have real constructive standards for interoperability and things. But I think we will still start to see sort of things coming together. And my guest last week, Philippe, actually pointed out that in a way we have the best of both worlds at the moment, because where some people will say the metaverse has lost momentum, it's actually giving us a pause point, to sort of catch up and pull it all together. While everybody's so obsessed with mobile or whatever, we can actually take the time to work on getting systems that are interoperable and working. Anyway, I think we're sort of nearing the end. So, in fact, we are. I bet you, the moment we go off air, I'm going to think of a whole load of more questions I didn't get round to. Is there anything else you'd care to get on air or publicise while you're here?
Well, let me see. We have IndieMetaverse coming up next week. We have Jibe 1.5 will be launching very soon. I would like 1.5 to come out before the end of the year. We are migrating our OpenSim clients to 0.7.2 of Open Simulator, and we have lots of goodness going on there too. Apart from that, at some point I'll be putting my feet up and having some turkey at Christmas. So
indeed.
That's about it, really.
I think today being the 1st of December, we're officially entered the wind down period now.
Oh, so. I think unfortunately it's going to be a busy next week or so for me, but I'm really looking forward to Christmas, I have to say.
Okay. Well, thanks an awful lot for coming here and sharing your thoughts and telling us what's happening. We'll be having another season next year where I'm hoping we might actually have multiple people in at once to widen the discussion a little bit. So hopefully you might come back and join us then. In the meantime, we've got one more show, ladies and gentlemen, for this season coming up in a fortnight time, when I'm going to be joined the 15th December by Dizzy Banjo, who is a composer and a musician. He specializes in composing for interactive in-world environments, but he's also behind the iPad app RJDJ and the iPod there's too many I's, aren't there? The iPad app, which was called Inception, which was a tie-in with the Inception movie. And he is also launching a new app, which he'll be telling us all about, called Dimensions, for the iPad, or the iRange, I think is probably the right expression, as well. So he'll be with us in 2 weeks' time. So thank you for joining us, and thank you especially again to Chris Hart for joining us tonight. Wonderful to have you here.
Lovely to be here.
Great. And we will see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye for now.